I'm lucky today to be joined by Andy Mouncey, who is an endurance running coach, but came originally from a triathlon background, Andy.
Yes, triathlon was my baby for 17 years. My farewell to the sport was the Enduroman Arch to Arc Challenge, so London to Paris via an English Channel swim. And for the last few years, I've been experimenting with the joy and challenge that is ultramarathon running.
And what made you make the initial change from 16, 17 years of triathlon to ultra distance marathon running?
After the Channel swim, which is the middle bit of the London to Paris thing, I couldn't get my head around swimming pools. So I stopped swimming. Literally stopped swimming. So I was looking for something else to get into, and I'd always loved running. I'd started fell racing as a kid in the north of England, where I grew up. So it was combining love of the hills and the remote areas with a newfound interest in the long distance stuff. So really just putting two together. And then.
So when you did an Enduroman, it wasn't, you said it was your sign-off race, but you didn't actually know at the time that was going to be your last triathlon, so to speak.
Correct. I didn't know at the time I was going to be giving up swimming after that. But I was bored with the sport. I was looking for a new challenge, and Enduroman was it. And it turned out to be the last time I kind of turned a stroke in anger. Really, I literally haven't swum since then. Ah!
And how long ago was that?
September 2003.
Okay, so we're 7 years in. So just tell our readers a little bit about what you are doing at the moment.
At the moment, I am specialising in helping people to get into and prepare for ultramarathon races, which is anything over the marathon distance, up to around about 100 miles in one hit the races go, so a huge range of distances. And the stage races are 5-6 days as well, the Marathon des Sables being one of the most famous. So we have running-based retreats in the Lake Districts and in the French Alps, alongside two of the races that we support, which is the Lakeland 50 and 100 mile race, takes place in the Lake District, and the Ultra Tour of Mont Blanc, which takes place in the French Alps every summer. So it's an opportunity to attract people to what we think is a very different and very compelling sport, ultramarathon running, where the normal rules don't appear to apply.
That's what we like. I mean, triathletes on a whole are relatively familiar with that kind of mentality, but just tell us a little bit about the Ultra Tour of Mont Blanc, because that's quite a special race, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The Ultra Tour of Mont Blanc is a circuit of the Mont Blanc Massif, which is around about 95 miles. And there are thousands of people that walk it every year and take about 8 to 10 days to do it. The race is a start to finish race, so we'll take in the entire circuit. To give you an idea of the severity, there are no high mountains that are visited, but there are lots of high passes. Total climbing and descending, 29,000 feet. So Everest is the amount of climbing and descending. So it's a really tough race. 2,500 people were on the start line this year in Chamonix. The finishing rate is around about 50%. So a lot of people don't finish. The added excitement this year was that the race was stopped 3 hours in because there was bad weather and part of the course fell away. There's a landslide and a mudslide. So that was astonishing, actually, because we were running a running retreat the week before the race, so we were there, and we were there at the checkpoint where they stopped the race. We were right there. So we saw the elites coming in and nobody going out. So there's whole confusion. It's night time. Nobody knows what's going on. We're all thinking, what's everybody doing hanging around? And then you see people coming in and there's a lot of support and going, yeah, great, I'm here, I'm kind of 3 hours in, whatever. And then just distraught coming into the checkpoint and going, it's all over. And obviously, as you know from your own racing, the key stuff you prepare a long time for.
So did the race actually finish there, or did they manage to restart it?
They restarted it the following day, at very short notice, putting on a half-distance race. So of course, imagine the scenario. Most people are thinking that that's it, it's all gone, it's all finished. So they're either crashed out or in the pub getting drunk, anything but focused on having to restart the race. And the organisers let everybody know by text that we're going to do a half-distance race next day. So of course there's people that didn't get that text. Some people got it late. Some people got it with a few hours notice. So you've got the whole thing about how do you pick yourself up from complete and utter despair, disillusionment, to get yourself back onto a start line on the back of probably too much alcohol and not much sleep, doing something in the French Alps. So it was an amazing time to experience, and both really distressing to watch, actually. But as an exercise afterwards in talking to people about how they dragged themselves out of the pit and got back onto start line and completed a race is really quite amazing.
Obviously, as you mentioned just before, that there's a lot of training required, and we talked earlier about the fact that ultra marathon running, or ultra, what would you call it, ultra marathon running? Yeah, ultra running. We see in triathlon and running all the time that it's all about splits. You know, triathletes are always ones for, okay, what time did you do for this? Or what time's your 200 metres time in the pool? What time's your 10k time? Blah, blah, blah. What speed, RPMs, all the rest of it. But as you pointed out, ultramarathon running is very different, and the training is very different.
Yeah, one of the big differences is this transition from very definite measures, splits, times, heart rates, wattage, all the rest of it, in terms of measuring your progress, to, you know, you're faced with 40, 50 miles on your feet. Most people would find that pretty intimidating prospect. And one of the things about success and enjoyment in ultramarathon running is being cool with where you are at that particular point in time, and enjoying where you are at that particular point in time, as opposed to being focused on how fast you're going, how far you've got to go, how good or bad or indifferent or absolutely terrible you're feeling, how you'll never get to the next checkpoint, all the stuff that you can't control, as opposed to the stuff that you can. So one of the big differences is learning how to measure your progress differently, and learning to key off different measures in ultramarathon running, and going from a very technical, very specific environment to something where acceptance of everything the physical environment throws at you, and accepting where you are and how you're feeling at that particular time, knowing that you can go like that quite easily, is a big part of overcoming the intimidation of the distance and the conditions on that one. So it's different rules, and managing the transition from a very definite, specific environment to one where pretty much, you know, you can choose your own measures.
If you had sort of just put it into a few words, you know, why someone should, or someone who's looking for a different challenge or wants to make that challenge, that step up from sort of marathon running up to ultra marathon running, what would be your advice, and why would you say to give it a go?
I think on one level it's a fabulous way to experience what for many races is very inspiring landscapes, to move through a landscape under your own steam, to manage yourself and your responses, and to enjoy the journey on a very basic level is a really tremendous thing. You see stuff and experience stuff when you're on your own 2 feet in a remote landscape that you would never normally do in a car or a bike or whatever. And that's a huge factor for me and for a lot of people that I know that do the racing. And the other thing that I would say is that, because although increasing numbers are getting into the longer distances, it's still quite a fledgling sport. How do you prepare for it? How do you race it? What are the strategies? What are the tactics? Which means we've all got a license to experiment. So for example, on the nutrition side, I know people that compete on junk food, and I know people that only do it on gels and sports drinks. and both seem to be equally successful, and it seems to work. How does that happen? So you've got this huge continuum in which to play with what works for you, and that experimentation is great because it means that the sport can genuinely accommodate all shapes, all sizes, all levels of motivation, all degrees of kind of strategy or tactic you can think of, if you've got the courage to experiment.
And you said before you've got a coaching and speaking company, and so if you just want to give that little plug and give the readers the website where they can go to find out more about what you do, if they want advice, if they want coaching, if they want a speaker, what is the website?
Okay, the website is bigandscaryrunning.com. The running retreats that we do, you'll find with alpine-oasis.com, and those are retreats in the Lake District and the French Alps.
And if you have one race that you said, okay, this is a good starter race, this is a good taster for someone moving up to ultramarathon distance running, what would it be?
Oh, crikey, that's a question. The answer I would give would be to start with a race that grabs you, that moves you, that compels you, because the sport is hard enough as it is. So it has to be something that you're genuinely looking forward to, that really compels you. That could be a 50k, it could be 100 mile, it could be a 6-day race. There might be a stepping stone between where you are now and where you want to be, and then again it might not. So whatever you choose, it's got to move you. It's got to move you. If I were to pick a race in this country, I would pick the Lakeland either 50 mile or 100 mile event, because I love the Lake District, and I think if you want to experience the Lake District for the first time, you can do far worse than being on your own 2 feet over a 50 or 100 mile pitch, and you can find that race on lakeland100.com.
You've got me interested now. Lovely talking to you, Andy. Thank you very much.